15th. I'd like to call this meeting to order and roll call. Renee, please show all here except for Katie Hutchinson. If you would stand with me so we can say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Our first item is to approve our agenda. If I could have a motion, please.
I move to approve the agenda as submitted.
Okay, do I have a second? Okay, thank you, Ms. Ullman. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, likewise. Okay, passes. Public comments?
Not on agenda items.
Not on agenda items. Okay. That brings us to board planning. And I think, Dr. Mellon, you're going to share some things about the end of the year and what a great year we've had.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Board, I just want to provide a little bit of a quick end-of-year summary or overview. We really had the opportunity as an executive team yesterday to meet and just sort of reflect on the year and talk about things that we felt went well and things that we could do to get better. So I thought as a result of that meeting yesterday, I would put some quick notes together for you. So this isn't pretty or anything, but I hope the content makes sense. Our PRIDE program, as you know, I really focused on the big ticket initiatives. So in our PRIDE program, we feel like the SET evaluation, which is a process that Ms. Pfeiffer brought to the district when she came in, was a way to sort of train our people to go around into our buildings and sort of determine and evaluate how well we were doing with our PRIDE program. It's very strategic, very scientifically focused, and so we did that in the fall to get a baseline for how the buildings were doing in terms of a set of criteria. We came back in the spring with the same team. If a person evaluated a school on the SET evaluation in the fall, the same person did the same school in the spring. And what was great is you can see about a 10% improvement based upon the same criteria. So what that was saying to us is they valued the evaluation process, they learned from that first visit in the fall, and they greatly increased and enhanced their practice as it relates to the PRIDE program. So we put a lot of value on our PRIDE program, but to be quite honest, prior to the SET evaluation coming in, we didn't have a great way to measure how effective the program was. And this is a great tool. To me, it took the PRIDE program to another level. In addition, just so you know, we had 77% of our students who did not receive one behavioral referral. So over three-fourths, that's a 1% improvement over the previous year. So for a district of over 10,000 students, that to me was very positive, but even more impressively, our behavioral referrals decreased by over 1,000 from last year to this year. So think about that. It was about 5 years ago we were at 11,000 behavioral referrals, and then this past year we were at 6,400. So our PRIDE program is just making a huge impact on trying to set positive expectations for our students. I think our schools are buying into it. Our staffs at all of our schools are buying into it as well. And so I think that's something to be very proud of. We do know that we want to look at our PRIDE program and strengthen what we call Tier 2 and Tier 3 behavioral interventions. We think on that first core level with all of our kids, we're doing a pretty good job with PRIDE, but how do we intervene with those students, those other 23% maybe of students? How do we intervene? What we call Tier 2 or Tier 3 to help them learn and improve their behavior. So that's not to say we're not doing those things at all, but I think we could be more strategic and intentional. And so we agreed we needed, that's an area of focus as we go into next year.
Dr. Mellon, yes. I'm going to just ask you a quick question right there. Are the school social workers helping teachers to be able to help kids self-regulate? Because that's probably a big part of the issue, is they lack self-regulation skills. That can solve a lot of problems, especially at Tier 2.
I will tell you that one of the things that we think is a area for us to focus on is that we do have people, whether they're social workers, counselors, administrators, whether they're behavior intervention coordinators, we have different staff members that help to provide a role to support student behavior in our schools. But we probably need to do even a more focused job of making sure that those schools, those people are identified, that they are more intentionally involved in the specific Tier 2 or Tier 3 levels of intervention. I think there's some inconsistency across our district is what we talked about, and so we need to clean that up. So we are providing that level of help and support overall, but we just feel like it's not as focused as what we're doing with our Tier 1 PRIDE implementation. So,
And I applaud you too for implementing the trauma-informed care perspective. I think that'll help a lot with Tier 2 and Tier 3.
I agree, thank you. Work ethic certification has been strongly correlated this past year to our PRIDE program. We found a year ago that there was a disconnect, and it wasn't intentional, it just was happening. And so we did a much better job of really focusing on the PRIDE teams, focusing not just on PRIDE, but also work ethic certification. So on a senior level, we increased from 18% to 24% this year, so a 6 percentage point improvement in the number of seniors who earned the work ethic certification. So, still more work to be done, but at least we did a better job of connecting. And the main issue kids are not earning it is attendance. And I'll share with you down the road, I looked at our data dashboard, and we're still not fully updated with our dashboard. We're still filling in from the year, but one of the areas I looked at was attendance. And our student attendance decreased from last year. And we have a task force that we formed in our district, and I'm going to be bringing something to you in July with some pretty intense changes in what we do with student attendance, because it's not heading in the direction we need it to, especially at the high school level. So we'll bring that to you. Literacy, our coaches was a highlight. They're doing a great job working with our teachers and administrators. We have a lot better resources in our district as it relates to literacy. Guided reading, training, and implementation has been a focus this year. Our schools are implementing guided reading, but we've realized that we probably need to focus now, next year, on more of the independent reading approaches with kids. So when they're working on their own, are they reading, and more importantly, are they writing about what they're reading? So, but I want to commend Dr. Hartledge, because she's really been intense on making sure that guided reading, we did implement that with fidelity, and she's also done a great job working with our literacy coaches as well as our just providing more resources. So she's done a heck of a job this year in that regard. We've also started to work this past year on writing. We're not where we want to be, but we started to put a focus on what's called Writer's Workshop. So always more work to do, but I feel good like the needle's moving in the right direction. On the numeracy side of the house, and that's been pointed by Karen Spencer, our two district numeracy coaches who started this year have just done an exceptional job. They've been widely regarded around the district by teachers. They are just doing a great job of helping us narrow our focus on what we're trying to do as it relates to math. Again, we're calling it numeracy because sometimes, I guess numeracy can freak people out as much as math can, but in my opinion...
Language people.
Yeah, but literacy and numeracy, it sounds better, and I like saying that we want to use numbers to solve problems than just say math. So anyway, pacing guides are being updated, math fact fluency is embedded in programming assessment, there's a daily math review, consistency in the middle and high school levels that didn't exist before. So I think you'll see when we have a chance to present some I-STEP results as one factor, you'll start to see that on the math side, maybe the needle's moving in the direction we want it to move. The Academies of Greater Clark, again, Ms. Pfeiffer, along with a team of a lot of people. We've had a great buy-in. This is an all-in, all-out transformational effort, as you know. We're ready. We're ready to go at the start of next school year to implement the wall-to-wall academies. There'll be noticeable changes in the buildings relative to teacher classrooms and signage, and it's not going to be perfect, but it's definitely the right thing to do at the right time for our kids to make education more relevant to them. 52% of all of our teachers currently have been trained in both project-based learning and highly effective teaming, which is a significant part of the academy work. So that's in about a year's time. This summer, that doesn't include all of our teachers this summer are in 2 days of professional development training focused predominantly for most of them on project-based learning or highly effective teaming. So you're going to see, I'll be interested to see our percentage as we go into next school year in terms of the percentage of students trained, percentage of teachers trained in those areas. So Amy Schellenberg has just done an awesome job really getting that whole, all of our professional development coordinated. That's a huge effort this summer because every teacher this summer is getting 2 days of professional development as part of their contract, but outside the school year. So it's been quite an effort. The Freshman Academy just completed its second year, and really I'm so glad we started it when we did because those teachers are knocking out of the park. They're showing their colleagues in our high schools what teaming looks like. The culture of our freshman academies has been so positive. The metrics are moving in the right direction. So again, I'll be sharing a dashboard. When we get it fully updated, I'll bring that back to you so you can see some of that data. Data-wise, you talk about a positive influence for our teachers and our principals. It's designed to improve collaborative work and effort, and our people are very receptive. We see building by building the whole idea of people working more closely together, using data, but to improve instruction, which will improve student achievement. I've never been associated with anything on that teacher administrative level like DataWise. And again, people have bought into the concept. So we could have all these programs, but if no one wants to really own it, but DataWise is something that's being owned by our educational staff. And so Dr. Westman, who's our coach out of Harvard, is outstanding. Has done great work with our 3 focus schools this past year, North Haven, Parkwood, and New Washington Middle High, and the preliminary ISTEP results that we just received are showing some real improvement at those schools, especially at North Haven and New Washington Middle High. The other thing that we did this year, which was great, is we integrated DataWise into the Indiana School Improvement Plan that we have to submit to the state. So a lot of work was done by our team to make sure that we developed a template for the plan that would integrate the DataWise concept into the state criteria, and that really helped for a lot of reasons, because we didn't want our buildings to think, well, I'm doing this DataWise process on one hand, but I'm going to have to do the school improvement plan over here. We wanted them to know that it had to be integrated. So it's a working continuous improvement document. So that work, I think, was outstanding. And of course, you approved those plans. Technology, the greatest thing we could point out is with all of our Chromebooks, we had far fewer incidents where students were without their Chromebooks. So the whole process of the Chromebooks themselves were of higher quality, they had protective covers, but also just the process to get Chromebooks turned around faster. I really credit our technology department for that. They did a great job. And then we are really at a point where we need to implement what's called Power School Unified Classroom next year. We've done some piloting of this past year. It's a big effort, but it's that one-stop shop that we've been talking about in technology for years, but where teachers and students and parents, administrators, we can all get in, and it's one place to go to get information relative to students, student achievement, attendance, discipline, you name it. there's more work to be done there. That's going to be an area of focus for us, but we have the tool is ready to go, and we have to make sure we're up to speed. Facility-wise, North Haven should be complete around mid-July. We thought it might be end of June, but as normal, we had a little bit of a hiccup. If you remember, back in spring break, we had to be in school for 2 days, and those 2 days, we weren't able to do a major electrical, finish a major electrical piece at North Haven. So I think it's going to be more like mid-July when that building is complete. We'll look forward to having an opening, grand opening of that building when that happens. Charlestown Middle River Valley, the open concepts there, we expect a December completion. By the end of this summer, we should have the upper floors ready to go. The second floors in both buildings, the media centers will be complete, the science labs will be complete, and then we'll just be finishing throughout the fall, going by areas of the school to enclose those classrooms. But by December, we're expecting to have those complete, and that'll be exciting for those schools. Appreciate all the volunteers and their efforts in the downtown elementary petition remonstrance process, and we hope to have official results maybe as early as Friday. So there was a lot of work done by a lot of people, and greatly appreciate that because it wouldn't be possible without all of our volunteers, both coming from inside of our school system and, just as importantly, all the community-based volunteers and our partners that we have on the project. So including the City of Jeffersonville with Mayor Moore and Bethel AME, Cassie, the Parks Board. So looking forward to the final results and hopefully being able to move forward. And then safety and security has been a focus, and it's one of those unfortunate things, obviously, but just want you to know that we've really been engaging. Dr. Dykel's done a great job working with our facilities people to start putting together what will come to you as a bond issue specific to safety and security. So there's been an evaluation ongoing at all of our buildings. What do we need to do to make sure? As you know, since just in the 6 years I've been here, we've spent a lot of money to make our buildings safer, but that doesn't mean you can rest on your laurels. So you need to keep looking at it, and safety of our students and staff is number one. Budget, we're in a process, as you know, Board, of cutting $3.5 million out of our general fund over the 2018-19 calendar years. That's well on its way. We're hoping that the cuts in 2018 will get our cash balance in the general fund up to about $1.3 million by the end of this calendar year, and then we'll get the rest of the way to the $3.5 million in 2019. And why is that important? You know, we have a goal that we want a 8% cash balance in our general fund. Our general fund roughly is just under $70 million. That means we should have about a $5.5 million cash balance in the general fund. We pay almost $6 million a month in bills in our general fund, so we need to get that cash balance up to make sure that we're healthy and we have the dollars we need if in fact it's necessary. So we've made those hard decisions, but part of it too, you guys, is we're in that situation where we need to make sure that we're providing a competitive salary and wage environment for our employees. We need to be able to retain and attract our employees, and I've appreciated your support there. On one hand, it may not make sense. Well, why are we, having to cut in order to increase salaries? Well, if we don't do it, we're going to continue to lose good people from our district or not be able to attract people. So it's one of those catch-22s, but I feel we're doing it the right way for the right reasons, and I'll keep keeping you updated on that budget side.
Well, we won't be able to pay anybody if we're not solvent, so.
Correct. That's right. That's it boils right down to that, doesn't it? So that's I think, obviously a top priority, other than safety. The dollars has to be sort of a second priority, and I've got a great team with Dr. Dykel's leadership, and we're trying to do all the right things for the right reasons, and I feel that's what's happening. And I think that our employees are appreciative of the increases that they're receiving. We've done market studies to make sure that what they're being paid is competitive to the market, which is a real business terminology, but that's what's critical in this day and age in education. People have to remember we are a $95 million operation. And so that's not why we do this work. We do it because we want our kids to be successful, but you've got to have the dollars in order to benefit your kids. And you have to have the adults paid at a fair level to make sure that happens. Policy-wise, I think Ms. Skellmaker has done a great job of working on the revision of policies, and the next great focus for her is administrative guidelines. And she has been doing some work behind the scenes, and we hope to get those fully embedded very quickly, hopefully even by the end of this calendar year. And then from a PR perspective, branding efforts for the academies, Erin Bojorquez has done an outstanding job with the marketing piece of the academies. And we have a strong social media presence. I mean, I looked at the data today. All of our, I will not say this accurately, but all of the metrics, social media metrics, are up. Facebook, Twitter, you name it, everything is, so we're getting more followers. I think that's the term, followers. So I feel good about that. In this day and age, social media seems to be as important in an educational environment as any other way to communicate.
Oh, yeah.
Whether we, so I feel Erin has done a great job. And then the other two quick things, as you know, we were the first state-approved, locally created pathway in Indiana, approved by the State Board of Education. So that is awesome. And so much work has gone into that. But to be quite honest, I mean, we've been working on these pathways, getting ourselves to this level, as you know, for a couple of years. So this was a culminating event, but it was great that we're proud of it, but to have the State Board of Education unanimously approve it and to be the first one in the state. A lot of work was done by Ms. Pfeiffer on that, and I appreciate that. And then we're also, at that same meeting, the Coalition of Continuous Improvement School Districts was approved, and we're one of the 7 founding school systems in the state of Indiana. So it's all about, we want to be progressive, we want to be out in front, we want to do great things for our kids, we need to have great adults doing those great things for kids, and ultimately we want to improve the overall quality of our community. And it's not easy, but I hope this gives you just a bit of a sense. It's a fairly quick report, but that we're moving in the right direction. And any other questions you might have, I'll be happy to answer.
I just wanted to say that the least we can do is give people a competitive amount of pay when they get so much static from every place else.
Yeah.
And we can't say enough how much we respect and are grateful for the gracious and good people we have working for us in those classrooms. And the least we can do, I guess, we can't solve the problems everywhere else that keep hounding these poor people. At least we're going to give them a little bit of money.
Yeah.
I wish I could do more.
Thank you.
Anything else? Great summary.
Thank you.
Do you want some? Okay. Okay, next is policy review, and Ms. Scoutmaker, I believe you're going to share that information with us.
Now it's my turn.
Pretty excited
Jumped the
about
gun
that.
earlier. I have policy.
Most exciting part of our job too, April.
This just goes to show she can hardly sleep at night because she's thinking policy.
All right, so we recently received our most recent updates. So the spring updates, we received them in the spring and the fall. Just received the spring ones from Neola. I met with our Neola rep last Thursday. Not that many updates. They're not that significant because the changes with the new legislative session we'll see those in the fall. So these are pretty minimal. I've shared the summary with Dr. Clayton and invited him to contact me or call me if he has any questions. So I'll bring those to first reading here next month, and then I'll meet with our board member or cabinet members, and also Dr. Clayton, your board liaison, and answer any questions that he might have. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. We look forward to it. Next, we have our budget reports, and I believe Dr. Dykel's going to do that. Fund monitoring report and the House Enrolled Act 1009 presentation.
Hello, Board. For the general fund, in June, we collected 5.6 million. The big one was, in May, 6,342,000. We collected 5.5 million for the state tuition support, and then the other big item was interfund transfer, and that came from debt service. That was for the common school fund loan. That was the 768,000. So we pay back ourselves twice a year, May, June, and then normally like November, December. You can see we spent $5,000,001, so our cash balance at the end of May was $3,698,000. But as you see, as we go through December, I'm projecting about $1,005,000 is where we're looking at. In debt service, if I can turn my page. For May, there was no revenue that came in because that's basically property, bank, excise, local income tax. There's the common school fund loan that we paid, the $721 that went to the general fund, and that also included the interest. So you can see we had $813,000 there, so we ended up with $1,798,000 as our cash balance, and we're projecting that to be down to about $36,000. In the pension debt, no income, no expenditures, showing about $63,000 at the end of the year. Capital projects, we received the local option income tax, which is constant. That's a $62,299. You can see we spent $582,000. So our ending cash balance is a negative $151,238. But by the end of the year, we should be about $516,000 in the black. Transportation operating. For May, we had a couple extracurricular revenue come in, so we only got $7,000. We spent $415,000, so our cash balance at the end of May is a negative $20,600. But by the end of the school year, depending on fuel and everything else, we should be almost at $500,000. Fuel costs are going up, so I expect that $497 to drop somewhat. And then bus replacement, we had no income. We spent $48,405. Cash balance of $290,768. By the end of the year, we should be around $460,000. And then the rainy day fund, no income. We spent $85,734. So our cash balance is $4,566,319. So if you have any questions.
All right.
Go back to the other one. Renee.
I am.
Okay.
I pulled it out.
All right. You got me nervous when you did that. I'll say, because I don't know anything about that.
Simmer down now, simmer down.
There's some, I don't know if I want to call it exciting changes to school finance or what, but there's some big changes coming. So I'll go through this. House Enrolled Act 1009 for 2017. It basically overhauls the school corporation financial budgeting report. And this is really taking effect January 1st of 2019. Next one. As you can see, normally we have the silos, as we call it. You know, you have your general fund, capital projects, transportation, bus replacement, and debt service. Most of those are going to go away, and they're going to combine some of them. Okay. Now, major provisions, eliminates the general fund, transportation, bus replacement, capital projects. We don't have an art association, historical playground, or racial balance, so it's just the first four that affects us. So now we go from education, general fund now becomes the education fund, but it's not the full general fund as we know it. There's certain account numbers that will be moved out into the operational fund. Then in the operations fund, we're going to have those general fund account numbers plus transportation, bus replacement, and capital projects. It's going to be fun. Okay.
So do we know what they're moving?
Pardon me?
Do we know what they're moving?
Yeah, they have certain account numbers. Basically, the education fund is those people that are directly associated with the education of kids. So your teachers, your
Yeah.
paras, your I think your nurses are in there. There's a whole list. And then like my department, 25,000 series account numbers on up, we're overhead, so we're going to the operation fund. So,
So Tom, basically you guys are going to have to start changing your numbers, your fund numbers.
well, yeah, the fund numbers changed too.
Change.
The account numbers are okay. They're eliminating some account numbers, they're creating some other ones, they're eliminating object numbers, which really defines the account number, if it's salary, fringe benefits, whatever, and they're creating new ones. So it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
So, in the education fund, the normal $5.5 million that we get every month for tuition support will all be deposited into the education fund, and then I will come to you with a board resolution every month transferring part of that money out to support the education or the general fund account numbers that are moving over to the operation fund. So it'll be fun. Okay.
Dr. Dickel, can I just intervene here a little bit? The board, that's going to involve a lot of education. The purpose of tonight was just to start laying this out for you, because if you start thinking about it, if currently 93% of our general fund pays salary and benefits, we're going to have to reallocate some of that general fund to those people who are not directly connected to the education of students that have been paid out of the general fund. They're going to have to be reallocated, those funds, over to the operations fund. So it's going to perceptually, especially when you get down to collective bargaining and things of that nature, there's going to have to be a lot of education there, because some people may think you're intentionally moving money to not just in a collective bargaining environment, and there's no intentionality about it. We're just doing what the state says we need to do.
Yeah, it'll look like you have more money to disperse too.
Right, exactly. So that way I can see already that we're just going to have to immediately involve all of our collective bargaining groups, so they know right from the very beginning, truly what's happening and why is it happening and where are those dollars going. But again, as you said, Dr. Dickel, every month you're going to have to bring a resolution to move those funds over. So it's not like it's only once or twice a year. I guess monthly everyone should get used to it.
And it'll be a percentage, so I'll have to figure out the percentage of these account numbers that are going to go to the operation fund. What percent of the general fund is that? So say it's 10%. So 10% of our $5.5 million then will be transferred over in a resolution every month.
So basically, when you're looking at salaries, you'll have to project over the year, or whatever that portion is, funding, whatever percent each month that we need to approve so that salaries would be paid, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting. Then on January 1st or thereabouts, the ending cash balance in the general fund as we know it will go away, and I will come to you with a board resolution asking you to transfer that to the education fund. So that'll be the new one. Okay. Now, the education fund, for the next one. Okay. It says you basically have all academic achievement, student support, expenditures from Office of Management, and budget dollars to the classrooms. These are all defined as direct classroom expenditures. And the primary source of revenue to support those is the state tuition support. Now, in the operations, it says all previous uses of capital projects, transportation, and bus replacement fund. These are category 3, which are considered overhead. I'm overhead and non-operational expenditures. So that's part of the general fund. So what we're basically going to be supported by is local property taxes for capital projects, transportation, bus replacement, and part of the general, state tuition support out of the education fund. So this is going to be fun. Okay. So other provisions that we have, any transfers from the education fund to the operation funds will be authorized by you. I'll come to you with a board resolution, and it's going to cover the expenditures that are not allocated to the student instruction and learning. We can also, by board resolution, transfer the money in the rainy day fund to the education or the operation fund, but we're not going to get into that. We'll keep it where it's at. So, next one. Back up. In the operation funds, okay, the department will set an initial max levy. That's the maximum of property taxes that we can charge for each of these funds. And so it'll be the first three, the bottom four we don't have. So how this is going to work, I don't know. I mean, we have a budget workshop June 27th. It goes from 8 to 4 in Indianapolis, so hopefully they will give us more information at this time. Okay, next one. Okay, in the operation fund, we still have to follow the normal plans. We have to create a capital projects plan. We have to create a school bus replacement plan, but there's changes to those. Okay, go ahead, next one. In the capital projects plan, we don't have to advertise in the newspaper anymore. Hey, that's great. Now we can make changes as we need. We don't have to call the newspaper. So it's going to be published on our internet. So we're going to have the adoption, the amendment, notices, hearings, anything, emergency uses, that'll all be on our website. So everybody's going to have to do the same thing. Let's see. That's really about it on that one. Okay, go to the next one. That's just talking more about the corporation website, and we don't have to publish it in the paper. Okay, that's the adoption. Now here's the big kicker. Normally when we do the capital projects plan, our capital projects is about $6.5 million. We budget everything so you could see what it's going for, if it's going for equipment, salaries, whatever. Now, it's only for proposed expenditures that exceed $10,000 or more for capital assets or projects that are considered, so labor, okay? We spend about $950,000 for our maintenance workers. That's not going to show up in that capital plan that we have to advertise. The IT people, that's about another $600,000 that we have out of capital projects. That won't be advertised. Our utility expense, $1,982,000 or thereabouts, that won't be advertised. So you're looking at about $3 million out of our $6.5 million right there that won't be advertised. So we're going to have to look at projects that are over $10,000, and that is what's going to be advertised.
Well, salaries here in the administration building, will they have to be differentiated as far as, or are they considered all of them work with children? Do administrative salaries, where do they go?
Well, it depends by the account number. So like Dr.
Okay.
Mellon, the assistant soups, they are part of the education fund. Anything 25,000 on up, which is business, HR, payroll, what else is there? Those departments will all be part of the operational fund now. So this is a little confusing, I'm sorry, but until I know more.
Okay.
But I'll try to answer your questions.
Well, I was just looking at that. I was still back on that chart where you had education and operations, and it says expenditure under operations, expenditures from former general fund, including salaries and benefits for offices of the superintendent.
Oh, okay, superintendent.
Business manager, yours,
Human resources.
and human resources, custodian, maintenance salaries.
It does mention the superintendent and the operations fund, which is interesting.
Yeah, that's why I was
Because in the
confused.
former way that superintendents were really viewed was more on the management side of the house.
Right.
And I could understand it then, but today, most superintendents are more instructionally focused. So it's interesting that they're just making you put the superintendent in the operations fund,
Yeah.
which is then tied to local property taxes, which that to me is somewhat concerning.
And we still aren't finalized. That could change.
Yeah.
You know, these are
It
what
needs
is
to
being
change,
proposed, and we'll find out more June 27th.
Tom, let me ask you a question. Then when we advertise, usually there's a breakdown with everything. So what I'm saying is a limited number of items, and you see buckets, I'm going to use buckets of expenditures here. It's really not explaining anything.
It would say like construction projects. In the summary, we would just have a total. It wouldn't identify it, but we still have to break out capital projects by location.
Right.
That's where you'll see what the projects will be.
When I first read about this or heard about this, the talk or the
Buzz.
was that this was going to be very beneficial to school corporations. Now, if we've got this many silos, and the silos couldn't talk to each other except with special exceptions, we've had a couple of those, silos can't intermingle their monies, does this allow more intermingling?
Yes.
Is that why some
That's why
people
we-
are considering it positive?
Yeah. So if I need more money in capital projects and less money in transportation, I can move it. I'm not sure if I can do it with or without board approval.
Okay.
We'll have to find out.
Okay.
So the money will be movable within those silos.
Within those, okay, that's what I thought. All right.
The other thing the state, I think, is trying to accomplish is, if you remember, board, the state wanted school districts to really account for what dollars are you spending specifically to educate students.
Right.
If you remember that, they would come up with a formula or figure. Well, that's part of, on the other side of the equation, I think they're trying to make sure happens. Well, if you have an education fund, then whatever dollars are in that education fund should be solely going to in educating students. And on the operating fund, those dollars should be simply going to all those other things that we need to do that are important, but are not directly tied to students. So
That's why I'm concerned the superintendent's salary is not in the
Yeah.
educational line. I don't know. Of course, I didn't make it the law, so there.
Okay, next one. Okay, I'm sorry, go back one. So on the capital projects plan, okay, no, that's good. Okay, next one. Bus replacement. On this one, again, normally we would advertise in the newspaper. It would be a 12-year plan that we would always advertise. First it was 10, then it went to 12, now it's going to 5. So this will be also on our website, again, so we don't have to spend any money for advertising. Before we use any money out of the operation fund for replacing school buses, we have to come before you with a resolution asking to purchase these buses, so that's a new guideline for that. Okay, next one. For the adoption, again, that'll all go to the website. We don't have to put it in the newspaper anymore, so that's basically that on bus replacement. Here's where it says the new format is 5 years. So it's the 1 year plus the next 4. We do the estimate, the nature and amount of proposed expenditures by year. I think the reason they went out or brought it back to 5 years, going out 10 or 12 years, how do you know what a bus is going to cost? I mean, it's a fictitious number. You're only looking at the current year that you're really adopting. It's a waste of time and effort, basically, to do that. And then we have to support, if we need evidence to support the need for any contract for transportation services, to add buses, increase capacity, or replace a school bus. So it also says that if we're seeking to acquire a contract for transportation services, that will provide school buses and evidence on demand, so we'll have to have all that. And these plans all have to be done between January 1st and no later than November 1st, which is basically what we're currently doing. And then the last one, how do we make the transition? I'll come to you next board meeting with a couple resolutions. One to create the education fund, the other one to create the operation fund. Probably the first board meeting in January or thereabouts, or maybe the second board meeting, I'll come to you and ask for a cash transfer of money in the general fund going to the education fund, and money in the, part of the money in the general fund will also go to the operation fund, along with the capital projects, transportation, and bus replacement will go to the operation fund. Other transfers throughout the year will be required as board resolutions, and then we have to send them all to the IDOE. This is going to be another new thing that we have to do. We're going to have changes in budget preparation. I've already seen the changes. I've got my Excel spreadsheets based on the new changes. I just don't have all my totals in there yet. So basically, it's a 5-year bus replacement plan. We have to advertise those projects over $10,000. And that's really about it. I mean, that's as far as I know on what's happening in school finance. Why couldn't they wait?
Just a
5
little
years?
tweak.
Yeah. Well, some of it's pretty good because, as you said, stated earlier, go out 10 or 12 years on projecting price to bus, you're just guessing. You can put 8%, but you never know. Sometimes it's less than what you projected. So they're trying to look at it in a 5-year period. Now, on that one about the contractors, it's not for like Bus One, big corporation, lay low or somebody like that.
It's for that, it's also for
Contractor.
the regular contracted drivers, yeah. Because right now, part of their salary for the contracted drivers is in Fund 042, which is bus replacement.
Right.
Also, part of it is in Fund 041, which is transportation.
Right.
So we split it between the two. Any other questions?
Can I just say, I'm really glad we have you. You would be
I think
clueless
I'm
otherwise.
going to go grayer after
Really?
this one.
I would think, yeah.
So, okay, thank you. If you don't
Thank
have
you,
any
Dr.
other
Dyer.
questions.
Thank you. All right, our next item is in our area of student achievement, and I think Ms. Pfeiffer is going to tell us about our graduation data.
I sure am. Every year, we come to you with just a preliminary graduation data report, and the keyword being preliminary, since we still have some numbers to shake out here. But I'd like to start with Charlestown High School's notes up at the top. I just highlighted a couple of areas. First, that the percentage of graduates continues an upward increase every year since 2014-15 on the data we've collected. And also that we've gone from 6 students who were dropouts in 14-15, and we've continued with 1 every year since then. So numbers definitely looking good. Jeffersonville High School, we again have the highest grad rate that we've seen since we started keeping record in 14-15 here of this particular data sheet, and that's extremely impressive. You'll see in 16-17 we did have 93% noted there, but we did have a grad audit, which kind of brought to our attention some changes we needed to make just in our record keeping in our student management system. And impressive numbers there that we've gone from dropouts to only 1 at Jeffersonville High School, which is an extremely great number for a school that size. And then moving down to New Washington, we did have a 95.5% graduation rate there, down from 100 last year, but we had no dropouts, so still a wonderful rate for us to look at there, leading us to 99% in the district. So then moving on, excuse me, not 99% there, that would be further on in the report. Let's move down now to diploma types. Looking at our academic honors, just wanted to pull out there that we had 36% receive our academic honors, which is up from last year of only 32%. And numbers still looking good in the area of Core 40 and General Diploma also, but just wanted to highlight our academic honor success. And then moving down to our post-secondary numbers, students attending 4-year, 2-year military, trade and apprentice that we have noted there, that's where we want to move down to our 99% number there. Our mission, of course, is to have 100% accepted to a post-secondary opportunity, and we've definitely moved closer to that goal of 99% this year, up from 98% last year. Then let's look at our early college initiatives, which honestly seem to kind of be the highlight of this report to you, which pulls out our numbers of associate degrees moving from 13 to 46 this year across all 3 high schools. And then also our dual credits going from 8,387 to 12,061 this year. In calculating that for a total savings to our parents, Ivy Tech courses are $137.50 per credit hour, which means that in 16-17 we had a savings to our parents of $1.153 million. Just when you think it couldn't get any better, it's now $1.658 million this year, which is increased by $500,000 savings to our parents. Also, work ethic certificates increased from 118 to 140 this year. Dr. Mellon mentioned that during his report, and honestly, some of that does come back to just us being a little more diligent and articulate in what we're doing with the kids and monitoring and record keepings there. And then in our work keys areas, we did have increases in the number of students receiving platinum, which would be our highest level, and then also the gold level 2. There was some renorming this year, which could attribute to some of that, but we also had specific goal setting that our counselors were doing in some of our schools with students, which I would say also attributed to that increase. And then last but not least, if you look down to that scholarship and tuition, we are up from $7.866 million in the amount of scholarship dollars granted to our students up this year to $10.256 million. So great things happening here around our district.
Thank you.
I did. You missed it.
Tom liked the money piece, I think, on the Ivy Tech adult parent savings of $1.6 million. If you don't mind, board, when I started as your superintendent 6 years ago, dual credits were around, but not to the level or extent. Our team in Greater Clark jumped on that early with a lot of help from our friends and partners at Ivy Tech. And for us to have 46 students earn associate's degrees before they even walk through commencement, think about the power of that. That's not happening in very many places around the state, and especially not around our own region. That sets us up and sets us apart in a real positive way. And the other thing I think it's interesting to note, the Work Keys exam, the other thing that we've just learned recently on Work Keys is that a certain score on that exam would allow students to also earn a technical honors diploma just based upon that score on that exam. So for example, the number of students that we had that earned the platinum, well, let's say it's the 11.8%. I think it was around 60 students, if I'm not mistaken. But bottom line is, those students, if they had not tried to get the technical honors but had received the academic honors, based upon that score alone, you'd have 61 more students getting the technical honors diploma also. So that Work Keys test is something that is very important and critical now. It was always important to us, but now it took Work Keys to another level. So all of this, these metrics are maybe the most important metrics that we have in our school system, because they're the culminating impact of what happens when our kids graduate. Our mission, all kids accepted to a post-secondary opportunity. So I'm very proud of our whole team and all of our schools. Our people are knocking it out of the park, and very proud of them.
I have a question. Are Clark County Middle High graduates included in these individual school numbers, or is that a separate set of numbers?
Right, they would go back to their home school.
Okay.
Clark County Middle High does not have a separate school number, so they are always property of the school they've come from, so
Okay.
that does go back to that particular school.
That's what I thought. I was just wondering how many of our graduates accomplish that through, the Clark County Middle High.
I believe we had 55 diplomas this year from Clark County Middle High. That is completely off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure that's right.
Well, that'd be
It's
a
a big
great
number.
number.
Well, especially when you think about our students coming from all kinds of backgrounds.
Yep.
And again, all students graduate.
Yep.
All students accepted to a post-secondary, all students. So those students at Clark County Middle High, those are students who are overcoming whatever challenges they're facing. And so those the success that we're getting with the student accomplishments at Clark County Middle High is not to be understated at all. And the other issue is our special needs students. I mean, again, all students. So those students who are cognitively capable of earning a high school diploma, they're counted in these numbers. Those other students, we still have to make sure that they get their certificates of completion and that they can make a transition in their life at the appropriate time. So across the district, this document right here to me, I know it's preliminary, but it's one of the most important documents that we can put out there in front of you and in front of our public, because there are some areas that we can get better in, of course, but there's a lot of good news right there.
And we did put a lot of focus this year at Clark County Middle High on students passing Algebra 2 so that they could be counted as a Core 40 and not just a general diploma this year. So that was probably our main focus.
That's awesome. Thank you.
I have a question about waivers.
Mm-hmm.
The waiver numbers are up
Slightly, yes.
slightly.
Mhm.
And if you've had a chance to look at those, where are we not able to get our diploma? Why are we having to get a waiver? I mean, are you seeing it as in language arts, is it in math? What?
Math is typically our
Okay,
suit that we need to improve.
okay,
As I would say is the same across the state. I don't think
Okay.
we're in any different situation than everyone else is.
okay.
But there's multiple components to that waiver, and so
Right.
we are able to complete those other components, which are rigorous also, just not pass that particular test. And we are increasing the number of hours that the students will be at Clark County Middle High next year for those students who we felt like needed additional time to be able to pass the test. We have a good number that still need to pass the test in order for them to graduate
Right.
with their core board. That's the only thing they're missing to get their
Right.
diploma from Clark County Middle High. And we didn't quit and just go with the waiver. They're going to be returning
Okay.
and take care of that piece.
Yeah.
But we've increased the number of days that they need to be there in hours in order to get that math portion passed.
That is well said. And on that Clark County Middle High perspective, when you look at students earning the diploma, meeting all those appropriate Core 40 guidelines, that's critical.
Yeah.
So that's part of that waiver issue. I think it'll be interesting with the new graduation pathway buckets, because a big issue has been that state I-STEP test, and as Ms. Pfeiffer mentioned, on that math side. So across the state, a lot of kids are struggling to pass that state math test. And so we have to give it for 2 more years, but we can transition as early as next year in terms of applying the 3 graduation pathway buckets to all of our kids. I think, I would project that will help lower those waivers, because the state test is the primary reason why you have to give the waiver. And if we can eliminate that state test as a requirement for graduation, which we can as early as next year, I think that waiver
Right.
percentage will decrease.
As long as we're able to fulfill that bucket 3, which would be those 6 credits in a CTE or complete a local pathway with a C average or higher, we should be able to accomplish less waivers. But still, those CTE courses are rigorous, and we'd have to keep that C average in those.
Those kiddos that you talked about that were not yet graduates from Clark County Middle High, is that the reflected number up there?
Still in school.
Okay. And I know probably the rules have changed, but if they finish those credits by a certain date, are they then allowed to be back into their will that graduation rate change, cohort change?
Yes, it would.
It'll go up.
It depends on, you're exactly right.
Right.
On the date.
Okay.
I think it's October
like
1.
October 1?
I think it's October 1, if I'm not mistaken. So, and again, I would just tell you that the graduates, the students still in school, the special ed certificates,
Yeah.
all of those are, I call it a success rate.
Yeah.
Because the only thing I would worry about is the official dropout. And if you look at that dropout percentage for our district, it's very, very low, which is exactly what it should be. But all the others, if kids are still in school, if they're earning their special ed certificates of completion, those are success stories.
Absolutely.
And that's why I like to refer to it as a success rate.
All righty.
I often wonder why we couldn't have a choice between algebra and geometry, because they're totally different. And if a child has a real problem with algebra, the chances are they probably could do the geometry. I just wondered why they've never thought about that as a requirement.
I think go ahead.
Put that out there.
Go ahead.
Well, they require 4 years of math now, and so clearly they feel that progression is the Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, and then we go on from there. However, can I go ahead and mention this?
Go ahead.
With our membership to the CCISD that we just received the possibility to participate in, we are able to do course substitutions. So students that we feel could be successful in another math class as opposed to that Algebra 2, we could do a course substitution there or something equivalent. And the way our data will be reflected is as long as we still have our graduation rates there, as long as we still keep these other key numbers up, then that course substitution isn't necessarily going to negatively reflect on us.
That's great. Yeah. That's really
Well,
great.
and I will tell you, in the work we've done across the state and talking to business leaders, Algebra 2 is not necessarily an appropriate math class that's required or necessary by the majority of positions and jobs around the state. You talk to, yeah, well, absolutely. And I think what's great is that our state Board of Education and the IDOE are on the same page now in that regard. They're listening to, that's one thing that the business leaders, when you sit down and talk to them, you have a lot of CEOs and so on that Algebra 2 is not a key ingredient. Now, do they need other levels of math or other forms of math?
Right.
Yes, but they don't need Algebra 2. There's been way too much focus on Algebra 2 for the overwhelming majority of students. Math is important. It doesn't have to be Algebra 2. So that's why I like that flexibility that will be coming forward.
And we've
Makes sense.
just, been accepted to that coalition last Wednesday. So work that I will have to do with the counselors and the principals moving forward would be for us to look at our course description guides to decide exactly what might be a course offered, on the Indiana course guide that we could include in ours if it isn't already included as a substitution. And as Dr. Mellon said, we probably will be looking at a career focus. So what course might make sense based on a certain academy or pathway if Algebra 2 isn't going to be it.
Makes complete sense. Any other comments? Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, now we're moving to the consent agenda. I need a motion to accept the consent agenda, and that has, 5 things. 5 things.
I would like to make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I have one question on personnel. It's my understanding that we have contract services for Jeff High School. When is that? That starts when?
Started Monday.
Okay. So I'm looking at a person that change of assignment from a flex schedule at Jeff High School or a second shift to a flex schedule effective 6/18. Those persons haven't been reassigned yet?
I think everybody should be reassigned. In fact, at our last board meeting, we were able to tell people that everyone who was at Jeff High has been reassigned to another building in Jeffersonville. If they live in Jeffersonville, they're assigned to Jeffersonville. So unless there's been some
I'm just looking at this
change.
one, custodian second shift Jeff High to custodian flex shift Jeff High. So if we've got a company coming in,
Was that
That's
the,
where they're coming from, Jeff High, and they're going to, like, the first one, Danbury. See Dan?
I'm looking at Dabney. I'm
Do we
still
have the
saying
one- do we have the
coming
one-
from Jeff High School to Jeff High School?
is that the one, you guys, where we are keeping one person on day shift at Jeff High?
Outside grounds.
Yes. We have-
Oh, outside grounds.
We still need 2 people outside to do all the grounds, the grass cutting, the athletic fields and that. So we
So-
don't
so-
have anybody out there now.
So that's not part of the contract.
So basically, contract is just for the inside?
Right.
Okay, no problem. Just-
Okay.
Good to know.
Any other discussion? Good point. Thank you,
Yeah,
Dr.
I wasn't aware the subcontract was not inclusive of outside, so that's good information.
If you remember, Board, years ago, we were struggling with our outside grounds. And so we allocated new positions at Jeff High, Charlestown High, New Washington, to have people who were dedicated to maintain the outside grounds at those facilities. So that's one of the 2 positions at Jeff High.
Okay, now, another question with that. So when you have night activity, unless there's a lot of trash around, who takes care of that? Those individuals, are there night people working too there in the?
It's outside, it'll be the 2 outside would do that.
So,
Because it's flex, that's why they would work a later shift.
flex, okay.
But the inside, all the inside, like setups for games, so on, the company that we've hired is responsible for that.
Okay, okay. I'm clear. Everybody clear on that? Okay.
Thank you. All
Let's
right.
call for the vote.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Carries. And I believe we have somebody that we'd like to introduce.
Yes. Board, tonight, you have approved a new director of facilities, and that is Todd Gibbons. And hang on, before everyone applauds, I need to talk about this young man. He's been working for us for several years, primarily in an energy management capacity, but in many ways beyond that. He has a master's in mechanical engineering. He has acted in an interim capacity over the course of the last year or so in helping us in many ways in terms of our facilities. Thank you, board, for allowing us to move to a director of facilities. Interviewed with a strong pool of candidates, and he easily won the day. So, Todd, welcome to the position of Director of Facilities. Proud of you and glad to have you in that position. Thank you.
We've heard really great things about your work ethic, and we appreciate that.
It's nice. I'm glad that I'll do a good job, and glad to be in the project of working at schools and stuff. So I'll work from Riverside, Parkview, Java, and you.
Nice.
Can't wait to bring that, pride, back to my own school system.
Thank you.
Hopefully I'll do a really good job and things outside the box. Things we have.
We know you will. Thank
Good
you.
job.
Thank you. Next item is gifts to building, and Ms. Zolman, would you take us through that? Tell us
Yes, I will.
what kind of wonderful money we have.
We have $4,319.60, and these schools are representing Charlestown Middle, Maple Elementary, New Washington Elementary, New Washington Middle High, and Parkwood Elementary. And I make a motion to accept the gifts to buildings.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Ms. Crabb. Discussion?
I just have a quick comment. I noticed the sheriff's office donated $1,000, and in my 10-year history on the board, the sheriff's office as well as the local FOP have been great partners. So I just want to give them a shout out.
Thank you. Much deserved. Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, carries. Well, Dr. Dykle, we just haven't had enough of you tonight, so you're going to have to come back up and talk to us about PERF resolutions.
Yes. Indiana Public Employees Retirement Fund came out with a new plan. I'm not reading it word for word. Don't set the 3-minute thing on me. I know what you're doing. She told me not to read it. Anyway, this new plan, okay, is like a 401k. So the employee can go ahead and contribute up to 10% of their salary into this fund. We can match up to 10% or not. Our basic contribution would be 7.1%, where we're currently paying 11.2%. So we're going to save 4.1%. So we're still going to pay the 3%. So right now we're paying 14.2%. We're going to pay 10.1% is what we're going to do. The reason we're doing this is we have such a high turnover in all of our classified positions. We're wasting money. Okay, you could see in 2016, we paid $2,003,000 in perf, and in 17, we paid $1,878,000. It came down, and the reason it came down, we haven't been able to fill all these positions. If we were able to fill these positions, it would have been probably higher than the $2 million figure. So under this new perf plan, the employees, like I said, can vest 20% per year. So after 5 years, they get 100% of the money that's in their account. It's going to be a 401k, all right? So the defined contribution that we all get now that we're used to, where we get a certain dollar amount per month based on your years of service times the 1.1 multiplier, is not going to be there for these people that are in a resolution. So you could see how much we would end up saving. Like in 2017, we had 28 custodians leave with less than 5 years of service. And the potential savings would have been $25,000 just on those employees. For bus drivers and paras, we had 25 drivers leave and 32 paras leave, for potential savings of $14,500 and $16,200. So just in these 3 employee groups, we could have saved $55,000 in perf. Let's see what else. So basically, that's it. We've already negotiated in the custodial maintenance agreement, the bus drivers agreement, and the paras agreement. Those are the 3 that we have to negotiate with. So we had to do that first. Now we're coming here to you, and then we're asking you to approve this resolution, and then it'll apply to everybody that's on the last page of the resolution that you'll see here in Appendix A. So that's basically the short of it. Was I within 3 minutes?
Good.
Tom, all groups are included in all contracts? Have they been negotiated?
We only have 3 contracts that we have to negotiate besides the teachers. So it's the bus drivers, the paras, and the custodians.
Okay.
Those are the 3, and it's in there. It's already in their language. Any new employee starting after July 1st, 2018, in those positions that are on Appendix A will now go to the new perf plan. The existing employees will stay in the old perf plan. We're not messing with them, because if you're close to retirement, there's no way in heck I'm going to do anything like that.
Right.
So it's just for the new people, and it's going to be a 401k. And a lot of schools are doing this because they see that they're wasting a lot of money for the employees, and depends on how much money they put into it. You know, you have places like Illinois and Kentucky and California and New Jersey where their pension plans are in the negative because they just can't afford it. So this is going to be the employee supporting it, plus with our 3% on top of it.
And we need a motion and a second before we have discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. That's all right. Just, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Ms. Kraft. Do I have a second?
Second.
Now we have discussion.
Thank you, Tom.
I'm confused, because under IRS code, I didn't think governmental entities that were nonprofit could do 401ks. I thought they had to be 403bs,
No, this is perf. This is coming directly from perf,
which is
Public Employees Retirement
Yeah,
Fund.
this is their plan.
governmental entities. So I'm really confused.
And
Did the IRS change their?
I don't know. Basically, perf provided this as an option.
Yeah.
So as we looked at it, what we saw in it was the fact that you could be fully vested in 5 years, which I thought had value. In it, you get 20% vesting per year in those 5. So now instead of waiting 10 years to be vested, you could be vested in 5. And all those dollars then are yours. They're yours after 5 years to take with you, which to me, as we're hiring new people, we want them to have that ability and have that control. So, and plus, because we could then, our contribution will be less overall, then that's better utilization of our funds. And again, because if someone left before the 10 years where they were vested, all the money we've been paying out to PERF for that individual stays with the state. It stays in PERF. It's not coming back to Greater Clark. So that didn't make a lot of sense to us. And luckily, as we negotiated that with all 3 employee groups, Dr. Deichel did a great job, and Ms. Geltmaker as well, of explaining it. And I just think that it has merit and value. Now, the whole idea of 401K and all that, all I know is that's the language that, that PERF has dictated, so I don't know the specifics.
And you know what? In the new object of the new budget, there's an object 217. Anything in the 200 series object number is for benefits. Like 214 is regular PERF, 217 is PERF optional. That's the new one because of this resolution. They also have a 219, which is turf optional, teacher retirement. So I wouldn't be surprised if this same type of concept comes out on the teacher side also. Because for teachers, we're paying the 7.2% plus the 3% that the employee would normally pay. So we're paying 10% basically on all teacher salaries. So I wouldn't be surprised in the future if you don't see that coming out, and that would have to be negotiated into the teacher's contract.
Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, I think you're still up, and you're going to talk to us about a community eligibility provision,
Yes,
CEP food
This
service program.
is Natalie's.
Hi.
And basically, we've done this last year. We added 4 schools last year. Those were the first 4 schools that we added. Now we're going to add 9 more. So 13 schools will be eligible for this. And what you do is you look at the school. They have to have a student percentage, 40% or more, in certain things, such as direct certified students, homeless students, migrant youth, runaway, Head Start, foster children. So with that, if they're over 40%, then we can put them into this community eligibility program. And if you look at the attachments, you'll see that each school has its own sheet, and some of them we actually can make a little bit of money, some will actually lose a little bit of money, but all these children will have free breakfast, free lunch. The net effect is, if these numbers hold true, and the numbers that I'm referring to are the meals served. If they go up, it'll be more or less, it could be more of a profit for us, it could be less of a loss. But right now, we're projecting just under $3,000 is what it'll gain to Greater Clark. But you have 9 schools that now will have children eating breakfast and lunch free. So we're asking permission to proceed with this.
Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the application for the community eligibility provision for Bridgepoint Elementary, Clark County Middle High, Gordon Porter, Maple Elementary, North Haven Elementary, Parkview Middle, Parkwood Elementary, Spring Hill Elementary, and Wilson Elementary Schools.
Second.
Motion.
That was a setup.
That was a
He made
setup.
you read all that.
Go ahead and read all that, and I'll jump on in there. I got you.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Oh, my.
Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? All righty.
And this was all Natalie. Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you,
Good
Natalie.
job, Natalie.
Thank you,
Go, Natalie. Yay. All right. Our next item, number 3, is the bid award for Jeff High Band Room.
Yes, bids for the Jeff High Band Room improvements were opened on Monday, June 11th at 2 o'clock. The bids were publicly open and read aloud. We received 3 bids, which range from a low of $195,511 to a high of $211,000 for the base bid. The lowest and best, most responsible bid is the one submitted by Calhoun Construction of Louisville, Kentucky, with a base bid amount of $195,511. This money will come from the 2017A bond issue, and you have the bid letter, bid tabulation, and the contract that has been attached also.
Okay, do I have a motion? Thank you, Ms. Kraft. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Ullman. Any discussion, questions? Okay,
overdue. Can I just say that?
yes, you may. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, passes. And you're still at the mic.
And you're still
You're going to bid award for the Jeff High Auxiliary Gym Wrestling Room rooftop unit and roof work.
Yes, bids for Jeff High School Auxiliary Gym, whatever you said, and roof work were opened on Monday, June 11th at 2 o'clock. Bids were publicly open and read aloud. We received one bid from DeBra Kumpel. Todd, have we ever used them before?
Yes, we did Pleasant Ridge on the pipeline.
Oh, that's right, okay. In the amount of $211,000. The bid information and proposed requirements for bidding were reviewed. It met everything. It was well within our budget, and it's also coming out of the 2017 A bond issue, so we're asking permission to award it to them.
All right, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I have a question. We only have one to bid. How do we know that's a good bid?
It's under our budget. If it was over our budget, we would have rejected it.
But I guess what I should have asked was there any reason why, is it, not enough work, or any reason why we just...
Too much work going on, they're not hungry enough. Jamie Lake has been begging contractors to come and bid. That's how we got 3 for the other one, and we only had 1 for this one. So, and see, during the summer, that's when they book up all their stuff. So, we're going to do some projects probably in the fall, and then they're going to start getting a little hungry because all their summer work will be done.
Okay.
And remember, with the bridges going, everything was sky high. All the materials were sky high.
Everything was
for
expensive.
everything. So,
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. You're still up.
yes.
Clinic affiliation agreement with Indiana University.
Yes, this is my nursing hat now.
I know.
Greater Clark County Schools Health Services will provide opportunities for nursing students to become familiar with the role of a school nurse, as well as participate in selected aspects of a nurse's role. The clinical experiences in which nursing students will participate shall be mutually agreed upon by the Greater Clark County Schools Health Service staff and Indiana University faculty representatives based upon the nursing students' level of skill and knowledge. This is a 4-year agreement and renews the current agreement that expires on June 30th, 2018. So it's just a continuation of what we're already doing.
Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the clinical affiliation agreement between the trustees of Indiana University and Greater Clark County Schools, as submitted.
Do I have a second?
That was a mouthful.
We have a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion?
I had a problem with this computer over here.
Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right.
Thank you.
I wasn't laughing at you, but I was laughing with you.
Oh, I didn't take it first.
Okay, good.
All right. Now we have, where am I?
6.
Permission to apply, yes. Permission to apply and receive Title I, Title III, NESP Part B, 6, 11, and 19, and gifted and talented grants. And Dr. Mellon's going to do this.
I will do this. Board, it's that time for us. These are basically all federal grants, and we need to apply, and we then hope to receive, which we normally do in all of these funds. But what we thought we would do is just to save a little bit of time and energy, we want your permission to apply for these grants, which we obviously do on an annual basis, and then we will receive those grants also. And so I would recommend that you would approve this recommendation.
I move to approve the recommendation by the superintendent for permission to apply and receive Title I, Title III, NESP, Part B, 611 and 619, and gifted and talented grants.
Second.
Oh, good. We're getting a little slap at it here. funding.
Gracious.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Now we're going to go look at our book rental fees, and Dr. Mellon's going to take that one too.
Yes, Board, as you know, each year, it's important that we approve the secondary book rental and fees and for the following school year, and we provided several attachments. The changes are minimal. If you had a chance to review those documents, the changes are minimal. And so at this point in time, I would recommend approval of the book fees and book rental and fees for 18-19 as presented.
Do I have a motion?
I approve the second book rental and fee established for the 18-19 school year.
There you go.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Thank you. Discussion? Questions? I noticed at the top of each and every one of those, it had our computer fee, or the,
Technology?
no, Chromebook, thank you. And that kind of surprised me, but why does it say $200 on there? I mean, we don't charge kids $200.
No, it's based over 5 years. It's just the cost of the Chromebook, that's all it is.
Okay. All right.
Because see, when you look at, when you look at the elementary school, we only charge $75, $80, $65 per child, and they get a Chromebook too, so we're not going to charge them the full cost every year. So it's just like textbook, we charge it over 5 years.
So the cost of the Chromebook is up here, and then down here, there's a technology fee. Is that the cost of the Chromebook each year?
That should be the
That's the-
cost, unless if it doesn't divide by 5 evenly, then it's probably more for paper and for toner, things of that nature.
I guess I'm not making myself clear.
No, I think maybe I can help out a little bit. So the Chromebooks have a cost to the district. We lease all of our Chromebooks.
Right.
And I believe that's around the $200 figure per year for a Chromebook. So what we do is we have our students covering some of the cost of that Chromebook, but not all of the cost. And so that's part of what that fee would be about. And then there could be another technology fee added in for other technology uses outside of the Chromebook.
Okay.
Because technology is everything that we do nowadays. So there's usually a fee that's associated just for technology purposes as a whole.
Yeah, just when you looked at that, no, where it's not on yours, is it?
These were, I have a list in front of me
Okay.
of the specific changes that were made in the fees, like if
Right.
there was an addition or a deletion of any sort from 17-18 to 18-19. And it's a one-page document, Board, that those are the only changes from the previous year.
All right.
So included in this could be repairs of the Chromebook if there's,
No. Yeah.
yeah. Insurance pays if a program is down and you just need to.
Yeah, what happens if, let's say a student's Chromebook is damaged, and they bring it in and they turn in and say, look, my Chromebook is damaged, then
Forget about damage, just say you got a problem with it and you have to send it in. So insurance covers,
our cost of the lease on the Chromebook would include a level of repair outside of the insurance.
okay.
The hard guys at the schools can fix it.
Right.
We have technology guys that can fix some of it.
Well, and I will tell you, we've come a long way in that regard because we make sure our people have gone through a process where they can fix. That's why we've been able to turn these things around much faster, because now we're able to service our own Chromebooks.
They do a good job because I've been over there quite a bit with this.
And we also have extra Chromebooks at each school, so if we do have to turn in a student's Chromebook, they're not without it.
Okay.
They'll just get a loan.
I didn't have a problem, I just asked a question.
Yeah.
Get kind of late, I just thought that's.
Any other comments? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And last, our employment contract for the Air Force Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps personnel. Who's doing that?
I think, do you want me to handle that, Ms. Pfeiffer, or are you going to? It's okay. I'm ready to step
I was
in.
going to say Ms. Pfeiffer, but I looked over at you and I thought, wait a minute.
This is the one we kind of giggled about this morning. I apologize, but I thought we were nearing the end and I didn't have myself ready. We would just like for you to approve the attached deployment contract for Colonel Robert Benning. He has been an instructor for us with the Air Force JROTC for a number of years. This particular program is doing amazing things for us. And at this time, only dates and the salary and the stipend pieces were updated to reflect that in the 18-19 contract for him. So just looking for your approval of that.
I move to approve the 2018-19 employment contract for Colonel Robert Benning as an instructor for the Air Force Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps program at Jeffersonville High School.
Second.
Thank you. All right. Woo.
He does a fabulous job.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
That was excellent too, by the way.
Thank you.
I think I could read a full sentence after having a master's degree.
Well, sometimes.
You would hope.
Any other, pardon me? Any other comments? Did I have a second? I didn't hear that. Oh, yes, that one over there, okay.
Dr.
Any
Funny.
comments or discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. I think we're down to discussion items. Right?
Right.
All right. Any discussion items?
No.
No? Reports or requests? No. Has anybody been to any meetings that they want to report on? Okay. And public comments on non-agenda items? We have somebody? Okay. Okay, it's Ernie Hartman. Thank you. Ernie, would you come to the microphone, state your name and your address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, my name is Louis Hartman. That's my legal name. I go by Ernie, my middle name. Reside at 110 Fairmount Drive here in Jeffersonville, actually Utica. I'm coming to you folks tonight to ask for a reconsideration. On February the 20th, I was on my lunch break. I was a sub-driver for a contractor, and I stopped to have lunch, and I had a verbal altercation with some folks in a parking lot, and it escalated to the gentleman getting out of his car and threatening me, and I used some inappropriate language, which I'm very sorry. I should never have done that, but there were no children on my bus. There were no children involved. There were no police action. Mr. Rorick contacted my contractor that I was working for a week later. I went in and talked with him. I told the truth what happened, and I was told not to say anything to anybody. He would get in touch with us. A week later, he called my contractor and said I was no longer allowed to drive for the school system. So I did not drive for March, April, or May. We were interested in bidding another bus contract if I could drive. So we talked to our attorney, and he asked that we try to get a meeting with the administrators, and which I did. I spoke with Dr. Dykle and Mr. Rorick and Ms. Geltmaker. They all sat in on the meeting, and that was yesterday. I was trying to explain to Dr. Dykle and Ms. Geltmaker what happened, and Mr. Rorick interjected and said that he had seen me talking on the cell phone on June the 6th. He was very adamant about that date. First of all, I don't remember doing that. In June of 2016, I had a phone call from Ken Watson, and he said someone saw me on the phone. We talked about it. I told him it wouldn't happen again. Okay, got a couple questions. First of all, if I'm no longer affiliated with Greater Clark County School System and I'm driving a bus that does not say Greater Clark County School System on it, why does Mr. Warrick feel like he needs to monitor what I'm doing, number one? I was told that I broke a state law. Contacted with the state police. It is not in an Indiana state law that you cannot talk on your cell phone while driving. You're not allowed to text. If you're under 21, you're not allowed to do anything with the telephone. So that's incorrect. There's a DOT statute that says, or DOT regulation says you're not to talk. I did not break the law. I'm just trying to figure out why I'm being singled out, because Dr. Dykle himself said anybody can get into an altercation. He said, but he was hanging his hat on that I broke a state law. Well, I did not break a state law. I'm just asking for a reconsideration so that I could drive in a subcontractor, as a subcontractor for the school system. I know that the school system is short on bus drivers, and I spoke to the board before. We, as contractors, are guaranteed. We can't call in at 6 o'clock in the morning and say, we're not coming in. So we need help, and I love to drive, and all my children that I carry in the past, the schools that I've worked with, they all have a very good opinion of me. I made a mistake. I'm ready to publicly apologize for it. I'm just asking for a reconsideration to allow me to be reinstated as a driver for a sub-driver for the contractors. That's all I'm asking for.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for offering those suggestions, and on your questions, I will have Dr. Mellon look into those, and we'll get back with you. Okay, any other comments, public comments? No, that's it? Okay. Any board comments? No? All right, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned.
That was the easiest motion I've made all night.
Yeah, you should.
Okay.